What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream with special guest Than from Tidal Gardens, looking dapper as always. How are you doing, Than?
Good. How's it going?
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks for
Uh,
having me.
I'm happy to have you on. Always watch your streams too, so it's good to finally lure you over to come on mine.
Yeah. Somebody in chat was saying like, yeah, he doesn't do guest appearances on other streams, and partly it's because nobody asks. I think I've been asked like less than 5 times ever to be on somebody else's stream, and I've really only said a hard no like twice, and it was because I was insanely busy building this new building, so I couldn't do it. But there you go. It's not
That's
that I'm
fair.
totally antisocial or anything like that.
You never know unless you ask.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of the new building, it is looking absolutely amazing. And if anyone hasn't checked out the build videos on it, Dan's been doing videos about the whole process of creating basically the greenhouse to this amazing, like, all stops out, like everything you could possibly think of for like an amazing kind of coral grow frag farm. So pretty impressive. Like you got your water lines everywhere, your salt water, your top off, like literally everything. Like it's amazing how much thought you put into it and the redundancy. So it's pretty awesome.
I'm pretty happy with it so far.
Mhm. So even on the thumbnail, I actually snapped one of the little screenshot off one of your videos where you had your little. I think it was a quarantine tank that you set that one up for. It was like a frag tank
Yeah,
on wheels, basically.
yeah. So yeah, that quarantine tank is a little weird because we originally it's made of acrylic,
Hmm.
and we had it specifically designed to fit on a cart. Like there's just one of these carts that you can get from like a Harbor Freight, which is like this really low end uh, Lowe's or Home Depot type place, right?
Hmm.
And the cart turns out that it cannot hold this weight at all. So I eventually had to then make a custom cart to fit this custom tank that was designed for a different. Yeah,
So did you build a new one yet, like of extruded aluminum or something else, or
yeah. It's I got some aluminum T-slot type stuff and built custom stands for it.
nice?
So it's working out. But now looking back at it, it's like yeah, I should have had a completely different quarantine system
Hmm.
if I was going to make it all custom anyway. But whatever. We had carts. We decided to use them. That was a mistake. But whatever.
Well, you never know until you try. I mean, I guess you could have just loaded a bunch of cinder blocks on it and kind of tested it, but you never know, right?
Right. And it took like I think 3 weeks for the legs to start bowing. So I'm like,
Oh,
okay, time to go.
no,
Time to go.
fair enough. So do you actually are they in use now? Are you using those for your new stuff coming in? Like you roll around and leave it in there for a few weeks, a month until it's ready to
So
go into the
we
other systems?
actually, yeah, we are actually quarantined for like 70 days. And
Hmm.
our rejection rate is actually pretty high because, well, for LPS, it's actually not bad. Like the
Hmm.
LPS has gone through like really cleanly. The SPS is like super frustrating because there's like this one pest in particular that is like it's immune to everything. So we're just like, okay, kick all these acros out, and
Yeah.
let's just focus on the stuff that we can actually move into the new system. So like currently we have a lot of LPS and ZOAs making its way into the new tanks,
Hmm.
and um, we have two quarantine tanks. One of them is like full of LPS right now, and the other one we're trying to do the acro thing again.
Yeah.
But it's so frustrating to try to get rid of like really specific pests that are just unbeatable. Like they're so strong. So anyway, but 70
Mm.
days. So
70 days. So what is the pest that's the one that's taunting you still?
the flatworms,
Hmm.
like the acroport eating. Okay,
Oh,
so I have to tell
okay.
this
Okay.
because people don't understand. Like, because people are probably in chat thinking, "Oh, just dip it." We did levamisole. We
Hmm.
did flatworm exit. And by the way, this is on a schedule. This is like once a week for like 8 weeks.
Okay.
We did levamisole. We did flatworm exit. We dipped in Coral RX. We dipped in Bayer. That's 4 different treatments once a week. We
Wow.
also emptied out the entire tank, filled it with fresh water, drained that out, filled it with salt water again, reintroduced all the corals to
Hmm.
ensure that like anything that wasn't physically on the corals is going to be extra dead. And like the very next day after doing like the entire drain tank, fill up with fresh water to kill everything, fill it back up, all that stuff, the
Hmm.
very next day, right in the middle of the glass is like a flatworm.
Really?
Yeah, unbeatable. So anyway, we're taking it slow. So however long it takes, we're gonna take that time because it's not something that we want to obviously introduce to other people's tanks.
Exactly.
Also, not something that we want to have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, just having to constantly dip corals, because that's what we're doing currently. Like in our existing systems, we're always dipping stuff. And it's just, no, I would rather use that labor effort towards something a little bit more productive.
So I another question. Now, if you're dipping the same corals, 4 different dips on a weekly basis,
Mhm.
do you find that puts a lot of extra stress on the coral? Like, do you have much losses from putting it through that much stress?
Yeah, they don't like it. It
Yeah,
turns out.
I figured so.
Yeah,
Um,
but at this point, it's almost like, look, they're not going to make it into the new system. So whether they live or die, it doesn't matter. You got to kill the pests. So,
that's
but
fair.
here's the thing: maybe we don't have to do all that because it doesn't work. Like,
Yeah,
so there's also that aspect to it.
fair point. Yeah, they're definitely a bugger. Ugh.
Yeah, they're no
So
fun.
okay, nope, that's fair. And that's a big consideration is actually quarantining corals, which is a whole nother rabbit hole. Um, that we should all do, and hardly anybody does, other than give it a quick dip.
Yeah, and it's almost like the dip in and hope method.
hmm Do you
But sorry, go ahead.
do you always cut the bases off everything and go through all
Oh
those
yeah,
extra steps as
yeah.
well?
But
Yeah.
so that in theory should do more, but the problem is the pests are on the coral. That's kind of the whole point, right?
hmm
So yeah, you're avoiding like a lot of the stuff that might be on like a dirty plug or something like that. But the really bad stuff, it's on the coral.
That's true. No, that's fair. That's fair. They're in there munching on some tissue, just waiting to
Yeah.
sneak into your whole coral system, and it's just a
What's
nightmare.
really crazy though is that we're actually getting like small copepods and stuff like that that are just like sprouting up in our new system. And it's
hmm
like, how did they survive that
hmm
much dipping and everything like that? How? But sure
Life
enough,
life finds a way. It's amazing.
yeah, they're really good at surviving stuff. It turns out.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so question from you. Ask that. Can you please ask Dan if he's ever used metal halides in his coral farm, and if heat wasn't a factor, would he have used them on your new coral farm in the building?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Um, I have used them on and off because I've had this coral farm now, at least the greenhouse, since about 2002. So we've tried a little bit of everything.
hmm
Uh, I I grew up with metal halides and I like them.
hmm
I was really surprised at how dim they are. Once I started, I actually used like 400 watt 20K radiums,
Yep.
and they were a little dim looking.
Really?
Yeah, with all
Huh.
that power, all that heat, it's
Yep.
like, these things really just don't cover that much. So
hmm
I ended up shifting away from it. And I think one of the ballasts died in the fixture. I'm like, okay, we're probably not coming back.
Yeah. No, that's
But
fair.
as far as like for like a home aquarium, if you just wanted to grow the heck out of corals,
hmm
some combination of metal halide and T5, if you can put up with like just the sheer amount of electricity and the heat, it's wonderful for the corals. Like
hmm
it's so good.
I think I mentioned last stream. One buddy Jess, he has a halide, radions, T5s, like all in the same tank. It's like
Mhm.
literally every light technology just blasting the tank in different kind of little quadrants on it. But yeah, best.
I mean,
There you go.
it
Best of
all,
every world.
yeah. I mean, it all does work. I think people sometimes can overthink it, but
hmm
yeah, these days it's really hard to not be successful with the technology that's available for at least for lighting. I mean,
hmm
even the really bad fixtures work.
Yep. Is that an upgrade to G5s? Probably not. He just got a bit of bazillion G4s.
I did get a bazillion G4s, but
hmm
one of our like
Yep.
tanks, we've got two really big show tanks, and
hmm
each of them has been budgeted a dozen Radeon fixtures. And one of the well, if you watch my channel, you know
hmm
that like everything is taking forever. But this is taking extra forever for that second show tank. So
hmm
I'm like, I don't even know if this is going to be up by December. So we've kind of absconded with some of the lighting that was kind of budgeted towards that tank, and
hmm
we're using it here and there. And like, if there's more and more delays, we're just like looking at all these radions that aren't being used. So you might just take those and move them over here to replace some other lighting that's not functioning anymore. And maybe when we do decide to actually get that system up and running, we might move up to the G5s.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. But you have so many; they're all brand new, just waiting there. It's just like
G4 still work. Just because they came out with the G5 doesn't mean the G4 stopped working.
they
It's
grow
like,
coral just as good as they did a month ago.
not like you could hit a button that says all of your old lights stop working. It's not like
Oh, I know. It always makes me laugh when I see people like, "What? I just bought this one." I'm like, "Yeah, and it's still as good as the day you bought it." I'm like,
yeah. It turns out there's multi-million-dollar facilities out there that rely on this to grow their coral. You'll be okay.
exactly.
I'm not even talking about me. I'm talking about like a whole bunch of like much bigger places than even me. That like where I'm like a little line item footnote for them. I mean, it's there's places that if you saw like the fields of Gen 4 radions, it's like
I've seen a few of them. I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah.
You're getting up there, Than. In a few years, you're going to be like a coral growing monster, guaranteed.
Oh, it's got to happen.
Actually, here's a question: are you going to have the greenhouse and the new facility?
Yes. So everyone asks me that.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: like the greenhouse is like old, right? It's from 2002, and it's like compared to the new building, it looks kind of ratty. But I do have to say that like because of the new building, we upgraded so many aspects of the old greenhouse that it actually on its own is super state of the art, and it is currently paying all the bills. So we're definitely going to be keeping it running.
It makes sense, right? And then you basically have a lot more space between the two of them, and it's settled. Everything's been there for ages. It's established. It's happy. It grows.
There's actually another big benefit. Okay, so once you get to a certain size, you have to have staff, right, to help run the operation. And I've noticed this with a lot of other coral farms, is that they have a really hard time getting people to stop putting wild-caught corals into the farming section. It's like you go through all this quarantining and dipping procedures and everything like that to get clean stock. And then the very next day, it's like, what is that doing in my system? Who did this, right? It's like, how many times do we have to? So anyway, having two separate buildings is really helpful for that, because somebody has to physically carry something outside of a completely separate building and then screw up. So it's less likely.
That's actually a really good point. You're like, anything new only enters this building.
Yeah.
Right? And
yeah, everything that goes into that building goes into quarantine, period, end of story. And sometimes just having like these structural barriers just helps like mistakes not happen.
Take advantage of people's laziness. Least path to resistance. Here's a tank right beside the receiving.
Yep.
This is where it's going. Nope, good planning. Okay, so greenhouse to the new facility. On a lot of the Frag systems grow tanks, what are a lot of things that you decided, like, okay, this is going to make my life easier. This is a change to make on the new tank?
So a lot of my thought process when designing my systems is all labor related. Like I know that if it's not easy to work on, those things that I want to get done will not get done. So I've got some other friends that are in the industry, and they have a very different philosophy as far as like how they built their stores, right? And one guy in particular, no names, he is all about maximizing floor space. So me, I'm like, I want one level of tanks because there is an optimum level, and if you do like a double decker, now you have two levels that neither of which are optimal, that sort of thing, right? But he's like extra in the other direction. So he's like, I want 4 levels on that thing to make use of all of this real estate. And he complains about his staff not cleaning the top or the bottom ones. It's like they'll only clean like the 2 in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, because it sucks to have to climb on a ladder that's on a 10-foot long tank, and it sucks to be 5 inches off the ground working on a tank. So like what happens is your staff all takes care of like the 2 in the middle, and there's pests growing in the upper and the lower.
Yeah, that's fair. All about workflow, so easy maintenance, everything else.
Yeah, that is the number one consideration. It's like you have to be able to get around the tanks. You have to be able to to easily access everything. Um, that sort of thing. Because I think that a lot of the growing pains that we had in the greenhouse led to some of this like working friction.
Hmm.
And anytime that you can eliminate that stuff, I try to do, which is
Okay.
like kind of segues into like the materials that I chose. A
Hmm.
lot of coral farms of my size would never be using glass tanks.
Hmm.
That is like I don't
Big
even know how much,
expense.
like 5 times the price or something. It's a lot more expensive.
Hmm.
But just knowing what I know now, it's like there's a huge difference in the tanks that I have that are glass versus tubs. Just in your ability to observe stuff, and then if you don't have the ability to observe, what tends to happen is just stuff gets neglected, and that's where all your problems are going to be. Like
Hmm.
that's the one coral that's going to have some kind of crazy issue going on that's going to plague the rest of your system. So
Yeah.
it's all about like transparency and being able to
Hmm.
visually verify everything. So it's like
That ma-
stuff like that.
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I've always done glass ones, but I mean, my one or two at home is not a big deal, right? But a lot of the facilities I've been to, they are big tubs and stuff. So that's a good point. I didn't consider that. But
Yeah.
with all that surface ripple, you're not going to notice these little things that you would as you walk by and take a look through the glass as you walk by every coral.
Right, and it only
Yeah.
takes one bad coral to cause a problem.
Hmm.
I think like people like completely underestimate that. It's like you need to handle that one coral that's sitting in the corner, like looking kind of frumpy.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, it's because it has like some pest you've never seen before.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, just over the years, like, you see crazy stuff. Like you have to look it up what that is, that sort of thing.
Do you find a lot of new pests now? Like
Well,
that you've been in it for a
more
while?
the wild caught aspect of it. Like
Okay.
if it's coming from like a home hobbyist,
Hmm.
I am like pretty sure it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
But it's like the stuff that you deal with coming in from importers and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And even like the good importers that they're dipping their stuff. It's like dips can only do so much, like we talked about earlier in the stream. And finding importers that dip at all is kind of rare.
Hmm.
But even amongst them, stuff gets through.
Yeah.
And the really crazy stuff always seems to come in. So, I mean, for a long time, we didn't buy wild Montipora. It was
Hmm.
just like, this is off the menu because we have such a nice collection of Montipora that every single new Montipora we bring in, it's like guaranteed. This is going to cause an outbreak on all of our existing. So you better like that new one so much because we're putting every other Monty in this whole place at risk as a
Yeah.
result.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's a huge risk, and I mean, those little bugger nudibranchs are on everything. It seems for stuff coming in.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Robert's asking, what's the most unique hitchhiker that you've come across?
So I saw like so the weirdest ones were like these like spiders.
Hmm.
They were in clavularia, so like clove polyps. But they, you know how clove polyps kind of have like these like little light spindles, right, as a part
Yeah.
of their body. That's kind of like how their stalks are made up.
Hmm.
Well, all of a sudden these stalks started to like move, and so like the spiders were like a spindle shaped
Huh.
and came off. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Never seen that before.
Sneaky little buggers.
I also saw like some flatworms, probably the size of your thumb. That was kind of clever.
Oh wow, that's a good size.
Yeah. But the crazy thing about those is that they hide in plain sight.
Are
So like
those like the LPS ones that kind of cover them? Like I've seen
yeah.
videos.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
like they're usually in Euphilia. And I was
Hmm.
talking to cherry corals about this, but they were saying how they were able to like observe kind of their behavior and stuff. And the reason why they can hide in plain sight is they'll crawl into the mouth of the Euphilia and hide. Like it's the size of your thumb
Yikes!
climbing into a mouth. Ugh, it's disgusting.
It's like
Yeah.
coral nightmares right there.
It is. Like,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of nightmare stuff. Like, and one of my friends, so I don't think I've ever had this, but he was
Hmm.
like, losing snails left and right.
Hmm.
And I guess that there was like the thing that like he thought that it was just a snail that had flipped over because he saw like it was kind of moving a little bit, but it was actually a 3-inch flatworm that eats
Hmm.
snail,
Hmm.
and it just happened to like be eating that snail. And that's what's like flipping around.
Wow, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, and I guess they move fast. They can run.
Book it out of there. Oh, this is like coral nightmares now.
I know, I
Have you
know.
ever had a frag nightmare? Pests everywhere in the tanks. Can't sleep tonight.
By the way, like we were talking about like because you know what, this is like the worst marketing stream for myself ever. It's like all we talk about are like pests that I've seen.
Well, the fact that you're dealing them in, 20, 70, whatever it was, 60, 70-day quarantining, it shows that you care about it. So it's this
Yeah.
positive reinforcement.
Because here's the thing, like somebody's got to like talk about it, because otherwise
Hmm.
people are just gonna assume I just need to dip it once and it's fine. It's like, no, it's not fine. It's
Hmm.
definitely not fine.
Yep.
It's like, protect your own reef for
Okay.
sure.
All right. So on that note, trying to make gains was asking. I got a question for you both. My plan for my next system is to have a frag tank and a sump low turnover system. Would you consider a tank tied to the main system with tons of rasses as a quarantine? No. No, no, no. Tons of rasses, awesome. Tied to your main tank, that defeats any purpose of quarantining it, because if that water's flowing between the tanks, they're gonna find a way in. Very
Yeah,
high likelihood.
yeah, I would say so. Like, yeah, and there's precautions you could take, but it's so much easier just to separate it out.
Hmm.
And by the way, there are all kinds of luxuries that having a completely separate system offers you.
Hmm.
Like one day you might not be quarantining, and it could serve a completely separate function. Like it could act as what could it do? I mean, it could do anything. It's a tank. It's a standalone tank.
It's a
It can
backup
still
plan.
works.
Okay,
Yeah.
so one thing that I do whenever I get a new coral, providing it's a decent size, I always break at least a branch off and I'll throw that in my other tank. So I have a chunk of the coral in both my tanks. Because if one day one decides to STN on me, then I still have a backup chunk I can replace it with later. That's one thing that I really appreciate with multiple tanks.
That's true. Yeah. Do
Hmm.
you also have like insurance bros where like you can like give them like a frag just in case and stuff like that?
I used to. I had one of those and we traded constantly, but he, however, just shut down his tank. So I bought all
Oh,
his coral. So my contingency plans are all back in my tank.
all my contingency plans failed. Like
Oh.
I've got like a lot of like good hobbyist friends. They're like genuinely talented. I think
Hmm.
everything I've given them has died.
Oh
Or
no.
it's like, but it happens. That's how the hobby is sometimes.
Ah, it hurts.
Because I had this fluorescent peach colored Blastomussa welsey. Never
Hmm.
seen it again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
was good.
I miss stuff like that.
That's true. Yeah, that will. Yeah, it's good to have backup plans, but I guess you're your own backup plan if everyone else dies on you. So, so is that a consideration for the new farm? Are you going to be like, okay, here's this really nice colony, you get a branch, and you get a branch, you get a branch, like even within your own like different coral rows or something like that to diversify it?
Um, that's a good question.
Hmm.
I don't think we're quite that organized.
That's
Like
fair.
stuff. So people do ask a lot, like, oh, do you have like a specific place where you keep certain corals? Like this is like the acro tank, this is the LPS tank, this is the Goniopora tank, and so in the greenhouse,
Hmm.
there's so many fluctuations that the corals kind of tell you where they're going to grow well, and it's your job to move them to that place when that time comes.
Hmm.
So, like, your best laid plans of that perfect Zoa system sitting off in one corner is going to get hijacked real quick
Yeah,
when the seasons change. The
that's
new
fair.
systems, however, I think that we can be a little bit more, in control of.
Hmm.
But even that got waylaid just a little bit when we ended up having to spend a lot more time dealing with the quarantine of SPS, specifically acros. And
Hmm.
so what was intended to be like mainly an SPS growing system is now very definitely all LPS.
Yeah.
So we'll have to budget some space elsewhere for the SPS system.
Oh, that's fair. Okay, Derby City Reefer's asking, do you have a display tank in your house?
No,
You get your fix from the greenhouse.
one of the things that's just not missing from my life.
You got enough tanks. You're
Well, it's
covered.
not, here's the other thing. It's just simply not that far away. It's like 200 feet that way.
Hmm.
So it's fine.
Yep. You got a whole suit of tanks. Okay, another question from earlier. Is Stan into any automation or auto testing? Manually test, auto testers?
I'm barely into testing. Like I need to do that better. So like yeah, and of course I'm talking to Devin about it, who has like every gadget known to man here. But no, I definitely would like to do some sort of auto testing
Hmm.
thing. I really haven't decided on which platform to go with. I mean, I own Apexes already, so obviously, like a Trident would be kind of a logical jump off
Hmm.
point. The only problem is I've got 9 separate systems, so
Hmm.
I'd like 9 Tridents and pay them monthly on the reagents for 9.
That's up there.
Yeah, it's like I don't really want to do that either. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's definitely important, and I see like the real benefit of keeping track of these numbers.
Hmm.
Uh, we don't slavishly pursue numbers because I think that we have objectively bad water chemistry here. Like
Hmm.
our nitrates are super high, our phosphates are super high, but
Like from your source water, or
no, I think it's
just
just because of the age of the systems and
okay?
just how like we've probably been feeding extremely nutrient rich stuff for over a decade
Hmm.
on tanks that have never been restarted.
Hmm.
So we were doing like once we started to do more aggressive testing, and it's like, oh guys, we have like a phosphate of like 2 parts per million. We should probably lower that.
Yeah.
Even doing like massive water changes aggressively for 3 months hasn't really impacted it very much. So it's like leaching out tremendous quantities of phosphate, and now
Hmm.
we're like cleaning our food and everything like that's it's ridiculous.
No, that
And it doesn't matter at the end of the day
yeah.
either because we don't have algae issues. We just
If
have
you're
a test kit that said we get high phosphate.
well, at the end of the day, if your corals are adapted to it, they're
Yeah.
happy. Does it really matter?
Well, it's not like I can't really do a whole lot about it. So we
Well, on the flip side,
well, I
maybe
think
you'll stress them out by making your water too clean, and they're used to that nice high nutrient water.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, it's like there's the argument that well, if you had it lower, they might look nicer and they might grow faster. But but we've done probably like on one particular system, maybe 1,500 gallons worth of water changes, and it really didn't impact the water chemistry.
That's
So
crazy.
there's only so much of a fight you can really realistically put up on some
Yeah.
of that stuff.
Do you do much for water changes? I know you made your big bins, but do you actually do them frequently, or are they more just for water supply?
No, we do them fairly. I was surprised, right? I was
Hmm.
surprised at how much we would be doing water changes because going back to what we were talking about making it very, very worker friendly.
Hmm.
So guys, I don't know if you follow like my build and all that stuff, but at every single sump in
Hmm.
both buildings, you have on-demand access to fresh and salt water, pre-made at the correct temperature.
That is
Okay?
brilliant. When I saw that, I was like, oh, that is like the nicest luxury I've ever seen on like a
It's
frag system. You're just like, bloop, bloop, here's everything I need.
it is so good. So the all the work involving a water change is just your ability to remove the water, whether it's siphoning, whether it's pumping, or whatever. That is
Hmm.
the hardest part about doing a water change here. And so it turns out you just do it more often. It's like
Hmm.
do a water change. It's not a big deal. And
Yep.
nobody and on somebody's laziest day, they don't have a good excuse to not do a water change if you ask, right?
Hmm.
So we ended up so we are collecting rainwater and we're using that to create our RO.
Hmm. Nice.
And well, what's interesting is we have a water meter that can monitor how much water we've used up to this point. And so I'd say that we've had the rainwater collection system now for a little over a year,
Hmm.
give or take, right? We've used 60,000 gallons of water.
Wow.
Yeah,
Dang. And of
yeah,
rainwater that you've used.
yeah, rainwater.
It's impressive. That's good though. So is pretty rainy where you are normally?
Um, it's
Or you just have really big holding tanks?
we have big holding tanks.
Yeah.
We've got like 10,000 gallon holding tanks
Nice.
underground.
That's awesome. Hey, that's a great way to do it, especially at big water bills. I mean, that probably saves you a fortune.
So yeah, we're very fortunate to not really have water bills because I and we're kind of in a rural area, so we
Hmm.
don't have like um, we had a well forever, but well water is like disgusting compared to like rainwater.
Hmm.
So this is much nicer and easier on our RO system.
Yep.
But I was talking to one of my friends in like Dallas, Texas,
Hmm.
and I guess like they pay down there over 10 cents per gallon.
Ouch.
Per gallon, right? And so I'm like,
Ow.
and this is Texas. There's a lot of evaporation that goes on in Texas, right?
Hmm.
And I'm just thinking, well, because this guy has got like a huge tank. I'm thinking, like, what is your water bill? He's probably like $2,000 a month
That's
for a
crazy.
house, like for like whatever. Like, no thanks.
I'm quite happy to be on flat rate billing for that. Uh,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Okay, couple questions for this. Scroll away, forget about them. When you said you had high PO4, I know 3. What do you consider high, or what's high, or what were they? I guess.
For phosphate, 2 parts
Yep.
per million,
2. Okay. How about nitrates?
between 50 to 100.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good chunk.
Yeah.
All right. Now the second
Well,
question.
nitrate
Yeah.
we're getting better at. I would guess that we were closer to 25 now.
Do you do anything for aside from water changes? Do you do like refugiums or scrubbers or any type of exporting?
No scrubbers, but
Hmm.
we are considering doing some sort of like Chaeto refugium.
Okay. Nice.
I've never done it before in
Really?
earnest, meaning that like I
Yeah.
don't have like for the systems of our size, we need like a
Hmm.
100-gallon tank,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of like an engineering puzzle for us because
Hmm.
like a 4 feet by 2 feet space that we weren't really planning on having show up.
Well,
So
that's fair. Okay. Does he feed his corals with what?
everything,
Yeah.
like seriously, like what don't we feed? And it's we use like all different types of powdered foods,
Hmm.
uh, and like oftentimes it's like this is our selection criteria. Sometimes the places we order are just out of stuff,
Hmm.
so we buy the other stuff, and then sometimes like a brand will say, hey, would you like to try our stuff? It's like, sure, we would like to try your stuff. And it's like a constant rotation. So it's like people will ask for like recommendations. I'm like, I have no idea what is actually good. We've just used a mix of a bunch of stuff, and we also make our own frozen food.
Okay. Nice. So variety, I think, is actually the best way to go because there could be something that's amazing, but it's not going to
Mhm.
have everything. It's likely lacking something. So by doing a ton of different random products and brands, you're getting that kind of nutrient soup of all different stuff that one crow might like, something in one food and something else like something in another food, right? So just mixing it up gives a whole like
I was
smorgasbord.
thinking, like before I knew any better, like I
Hmm.
just assumed that all the stuff was basically the same stuff, like sourced from the same place and everything,
Hmm.
right?
What do you think
But
now?
no, it's all completely different. Like every single product that we've tried is really different from everything else. I'm like, huh, didn't really realize that there's everybody's sourcing very different stuff all the
Hmm.
time. Like I would
Hmm.
think there'd be some overlap. There seems to be none as far as I
Yeah.
can. So
There you go. See, Friday, spice of life. Is he using a calcium reactor for supplementation?
yes,
Yeah,
yes, I am.
you got a
We
nice big
actually
one.
just got a new big one. We got like the 12-inch Geo one.
Nice.
Yeah, we haven't hooked it up yet, but we're
Ah,
getting there.
that'll be good. Is that for the old one or the new one?
It's for the first system in the new building, which
Okay.
we don't need to have a big giant calcium reactor for because there's like 10 corals in there or something, 2,000 gallons. It'll be fine for a little while.
Yeah, it'll be a while before they suck up the nutrients out of the water.
By the way, that's like the least sexy way to spend money is on calcium reactor media.
Hmm,
To,
that's
to
fair.
fill up a 12-inch media reactor,
Ooh, that'd be
it's
up
like
there.
hundreds of dollars in just rocks to melt.
Rocks that are just gonna fade away on you.
Yeah. It's like it makes you like rethink your life choices.
I'm spending money on it. Just watching it dissolve. Oh well, that happens. Um, but what kind of media are you using for your calcium reactor?
We are using ARM.
Carib. Yeah,
It's I think what does it stand for? Like aragonite reactor media,
yeah.
ARM. Yeah, we've used the other stuff before too. The two little fishy stuff.
Yeah, reborn.
Yeah.
Hmm. Have you noticed a difference in the two?
Well, they look completely different. Like
Aside from that,
Reborn,
but
like
actually,
looks like
little
yeah,
skeletons.
yeah, it looks like little skeletons. Where the aragonite reactor media stuff looks like it's been mined.
Hmm.
As far as like what effect it has on the aquariums, I can't really tell.
Okay. They both melt. They both provide nutrients. Close enough.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe.
Maybe, maybe not. Don't know. Just mix the two together, like the feeding theory.
Well, yeah. I was actually like traveling in Asia, and we were at this beach, and the entire beach looked like Reborn. And I
Oh,
was telling my friend, it's like, guys,
get the
this
buckets.
entire beach is like $10 a pound back in the United States.
You come back in your
It's like
suitcases. There's like.
$1 billion in beach right here.
It's probably where it comes from.
Yeah,
Okay, the Tidal Gardens reactor medium. Every time you go on vacation, got a new shipment, guys.
I know.
It could work. You fill those big reactors up. Um, good. Okay, so for frag tanks, is there any other big considerations for I guess someone at home or for you setting up a new frag system? What I mean, one level heights obviously makes your life easier. Having that
Mhm.
RO saltwater huge thing to make your life easier. Like, what other considerations would you say go into it to making it a more successful, something you'll give it love to and actually work on a tank?
So I think the world that I'd have to get into like some real nitty gritty stuff, right?
Yeah.
I hate rimless tanks. Absolutely hate rimless tanks.
I love them. Okay, go on.
I think that rimless tanks look better. Okay,
Mhm.
objectively look better, but this is a tank that you got to work on.
Yep.
And having a Eurobrace is like such a nice convenience thing for like a bunch of different reasons, right?
Mhm.
You can just set stuff on it. Just being able to
Mhm.
set your tools right on the Eurobrace
Fair
is
point.
really nice. It
Mhm.
prevents all those like helpful RASes from jumping out, like that sort of thing. So like when it comes to like frag systems, I am like Mr. Utilitarian focused
Mhm.
everything. So it doesn't even have to necessarily look like a good tank. It just
Mhm.
has to function really, really nicely. Because the quarantine, or not the quarantine, I'm sorry, but like a frag system,
Mhm.
you're going to be in there all the time, just all the time. So just like think about like the work related stuff. So
Yep.
the number one thing like that I can think of off the top of my head is Eurobrace is your best friend ever.
That's fair. I've never owned a Eurobrace tank. I do
Really?
appreciate the shelf though when I'm working on someone else's tank. Or if you're just cleaning the glass, it's less likely to splash. Like on my tanks, I always go slow for the last like
Yeah.
inch of the top.
So and I guess this also goes back to like having like staff
Hmm.
issues, right? Because you know, like if you are have been in this industry for like a really long time, this hobby for a really long time, you know the techniques, right? Just like how you're
Hmm.
slow
Yeah.
down, you choose to avoid that, right? But you know, like maybe you hired a total meathead weightlifter guy, and he
Hmm.
just doesn't know that those giant tidal waves that he's sending over your rim tank are a problem. Like he's blind to the fact that there might be an issue here.
Hmm.
It's like so you have to from like my perspective, you have to like make everything super idiot proof as much as possible. It's like or even just like the build quality of your equipment.
Hmm.
So, like if you think of like a protein skimmer, because like I was looking at these Rossmont skimmers, and I use Rossmont in my quarantine systems and stuff like that,
Yeah.
right? Performance wise, they are every bit as good as any super expensive protein skimmer I've ever used. Okay,
Hmm.
but they have removed everything that might be a cost driver that doesn't have anything to do with performance. So they use like really thin plastic and stuff like that, right?
Mm.
So you're getting like masterpiece level performance, but at a very, very, very low cost.
Yep.
Free plug for them, right? But
Hmm.
that build quality matters when you're not the only person dealing with that skimmer. So the
Hmm.
reason why they make quarter-inch monster skimmers is because someday somebody might bang it with like a giant piece of PVC, you know,
Hmm.
working on your store. So like that's why you get yeah, that's why you sometimes you have to just spend the big bucks on some giant thick monstrosity, some commercial grade thing,
Something thick and built like a tank. That makes sense.
like
Okay.
MRC or something.
Yep. Okay, question for you. Since he doesn't have a display tank, does he have any corals that isn't for sale that he wants to keep for himself?
No,
Do you hoard it? No hoarding anything?
no, but one of the guys that works for me, Ben,
Hmm.
he does.
He's got the little Ben tank in there. He's like, nope, nothing leaves this tank.
There's dozens of corals that he just will not sell. And I'm like, that's not what we do here.
He's like, mine.
Yeah, it's like no, 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 this is gonna go in the show tank. I'm like, my show tank. What are you saving corals for? No, sell this stuff. He's like, no, you have to keep
Uh,
it.
well, at least just keep a chunk of it and sell the rest of it. You, you gotta find
It's
the happy
so
medium.
funny because sometimes he like fixates on something that's like, this is a blue bubble coral. It's like, no, it's just a gray drab bubble coral. But he's like, no, it's rare. Trust me. I'm like, dude, no. And so we have this giant like gray looking bubble coral that he's just married to. It's funny.
It's not leaving. I won't let it go. Okay, question from Derek. What's the largest coral that he has in growth, size, and type? So do you have any monster corals in your tank?
Yeah, but it's not anything like super spectacular. It's going to be something like
Monty?
some dinner platter sized Monty, yeah, that we
Hmm.
probably took in as a rescue.
Nice. Do you get many people dropping you off stuff for shutting down or like take these corals?
Occasionally, yeah, but
Hmm.
we're kind of selective on that front because we don't want to be taking in again
Pests.
monster-sized Montflora that we already
Hmm.
have. Like
That's
we
fair.
already have issues with like the Monties that we currently have. But if somebody wants to like bring over 100 heads um frog spawn,
Hmm.
we're gonna make that deal all day,
Thank
all
you,
day.
thank you. Popular hot items.
Well, because
Yep.
what people don't realize, like what wholesale price lists are, and they would be horrified. Like if they got like some secret hookup where like they say, oh man, this place will sell me wholesale. Like
Hmm.
even though they're not supposed to sell me, they'll sell to me for wholesale. Then they
Yeah.
see the price, it's like that looks like retail. Like that looks a lot like retail prices to me.
Yep.
You
Exactly.
see like an import price list, that's even more secret. And you look at those prices, you're like, what the hell? It's like that's hundreds of dollars for these corals per
Yep.
colony. It's like no,
Well, then on the flip side, I've had people from like Indo be like, "Oh, look, we'll sell you coral," and it's like at $4. I'm like, "Yeah, that's
not
not gonna happen."
anymore. That's
No, I
all
know.
stuff is expensive.
This was a few years ago. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
that a few more zeros since then. Um, oh, that's such a good question. Dan, have you witnessed any coral spawning in your frag systems?
In my frag systems.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, okay, so you only really see coral spawning at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm usually out of there by like 5 o'clock. So
Yeah.
generally speaking, no.
Mm-hmm.
But in the ones or two times that I've ever been in the greenhouse in the evening, I
Yeah.
have seen coral spawning before.
Nice.
Now, coral spawning like dissipates real fast. It'll be
Mm-hmm.
gone by morning. So even like there's a video on my channel talking about like coral spawning from like mini maxi carpet anemones.
Mm-hmm.
And I just happened to have guests over. They happened to want to go to the greenhouse at night, take a look around under the blue lights,
Mm-hmm.
and one tank that's plumbed into all the others was like looked like a milkshake.
Yeah. Oh, they're just going off.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so you do see it occasionally,
Mm-hmm.
but like the tank itself completely just gobbles that up by morning.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's true. It does go away pretty quick if you're not around. I still cracks at one time. I had a little nano tank with about 40 rock flowers in it. I was trying to get them to spawn, and in my display tank, one started spawning in there. I was like, "What the heck?" I'm literally running back for the turkey baster. I'm like, "Spread the baby juice." So yeah, it's can be interesting.
Yeah. So have you ever met Jamie Crags,
Yep.
the guy from the UK? Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, he was telling me that story about how like he obviously he's doing this in a laboratory setting, and the
Mm-hmm.
first year, like he's has collaborators that are monitoring the actual oceans, and he's like they're telling me that they're spawning over there now. Ours
Mm-hmm.
aren't spawning yet. Okay, next day they're spawning. Ours aren't spawning. So the one day that he doesn't go to the lab and stay the night or whatever is the one day that his stuff at the lab spawned. And so he
Yeah.
lost an entire year of research
Dang.
because of that one day he decided to go home instead of stay there that night.
Dang. Which, on that note, it's actually amazing how you can basically get it down to about within about a 3 day window of when corals will spawn based on the time of year and moon cycles and everything. It's amazing.
I was like thinking about trying to do something. I mean, I went all the way to the UK to meet that guy,
Hmm.
amongst other things. There's like a bunch of different stuff going on. But one of the things was I wanted to meet Jamie Crags, and he was telling me like all the stuff that you have to kind of do that he had to do,
Hmm.
and it makes you really not want to do any of it. Like it's well, he was talking about how you basically have to like crank up the temperature to like 88 degrees or something like that for
Oh
like
wow,
3 weeks.
that's hot.
Yeah, it's like it's really hot. Like all these corals are super stressed out. They're all brown. They're all angry,
Hmm.
and then at the very end of it, they spawn. I'm like,
Crazy. I feel
oh
like
man,
that'd be a lot of stress on them, but I guess
yeah,
if it triggers it, there. Two was it last August? I went to the Cayman Islands actually for one of the coral spawns. Went diving and saw them spawning at night, which is super cool to see. You're like being a giant snow globe when they go off at nighttime, but pretty crazy. Second night it happened, so that's cool.
wow,
Yep.
cool.
Okay, actually, I got a question. How did you get into coral farming in the first place? Like, what inspired you to build a greenhouse and really get into this?
So obviously started off as a hobbyist,
Mm-hmm.
and if you have any level of success in the hobby, it's like you're gonna have corals grow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like what do you do when you have to prune these corals back? Like you have all these cuttings, you can kind of sell them off locally. Maybe you have to throw them away, you can give them away,
Hmm.
whatever. And I happened to be in business school at the time.
Hmm.
And it's like, what would this look like if I just scaled up this activity? Because I currently have a 120-gallon tank. What would it have to look like for it to make like financial sense to be like a big boy company, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a business plan about it, and there were actually like business plan competitions.
Hmm.
And I happened to win like 30 grand worth of like business plan competitions. Now,
Nice.
the thing is like at that time it was like such like a remote side hustle that really wasn't a huge catalyst. But what it did do was that any doubters that I had in my inner circle
Hmm.
went from being not supportive to being incredibly supportive. And
Hmm.
long term, that made the biggest difference. So like
Hmm.
everybody at that point really bought in and were helpful. And to grow a successful company, I think like people really underestimate the kind of support system that you have to do
Hmm.
it. Because there's plenty of days where it's like I want out of this entire industry. Like
Yeah.
I want to quit. This
Hmm.
this is really bad. I want to quit. And they talk me back into it. So
Yeah.
like stuff like that. Like people don't even know what it's like to just start from like
So
scratch business to finally be at a point where you have some modicum of success.
you're basically got you the validation from your support group to keep you motivated and stick with it and build it.
Yeah, sometimes you need that. Like
Hmm.
and every day is a great day. Like we in so I even remember it's in February of 2007.
Hmm.
I had like a huge blizzard here to the point where I got stuck away from this location, could not leave that other place because there's like 3 feet of snow,
Yeah.
and it killed everything in the greenhouse.
Oh,
Yeah,
yikes.
yeah.
That's
But
depressing.
and I wanted to quit. I was like, you know what? I could just be a lawyer.
Yeah.
I could just do something else. It's like everything's dead. Like I could just do something else with my time. But I got talked back into giving it another try because no, we have a greenhouse.
Hmm.
Let's just start this. Do it better. And best advice ever.
Look where we are today.
Exactly. Best advice ever.
On the side note, your new facility is absolutely amazing. I love watching your updates on that one. So you do more of them.
I
Yeah,
should. I should.
you should.
Actually, I will be doing an update somewhat soon because there's actually something worth talking about. Like the plumbers are working on the cooling system,
We're still
and
working.
it is so nice.
Nice.
So
Okay. All right. We'll be waiting for that. If anyone hasn't seen Dan or Tidal Gardens, I did link them in the description. Definitely check it out. There's a lot of amazing content. The other ones I really love, aside from the greenhouse ones, is all your in-depth coral videos. Awesome videos.
oh, thank you.
Yep. A couple comments. Jessica, a good video idea for Than, a tour of Ben's secret stash.
It's not even that nice.
you're like, here's all the plain corals that I don't care for, but he's hoarding.
Yeah.
Oh. Blue carbon reefing. Basically, is there any other utilitarian fish that you use in your frag systems to kind of keep things in check or eat pests? So, what kind of fish stocking do you put in your systems?
So I have come around on damsels big time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like the meanest little things. They're the meanest little things, but they do work. They do good work. I
Mm-hmm.
like different types of wrasses. Now, my list of wrasses kind of like has evolved based on how likely it is that they will jump. So, like my top tier
Mm-hmm.
wrasses are like the Melanaris wrasse, the possum wrasse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like leopards a lot, but they tend to ship extremely poorly, so you have to find like
Mm-hmm.
a specimen, stuff like that. Six line, they can be a little bit of a jerk, so
Yep.
I'm less interested in them. I typically don't like tangs because they can be like homicidal,
Mm-hmm.
but I also kind of don't like fox faces because they, after a certain point, they start eating all your micromucil and stuff. So you kind of have to pick your poison. Do you
Mm-hmm.
get like the jerk fish that's not a very great algae eater, that's like a pretty decent one, or do you get the best algae eater that also ends up eating your coral one day? So you have to kind of like make these sacrifices.
Which one did you go for?
If I have to make the choice, I'm getting the fox face.
Okay.
This is like Saw or something. Like they have to
Yeah.
pick between like tangs or fox faces. But yeah, that's the direction I go in. Now, going back to my staff, Luke and
Mm-hmm.
Ben, they are like on Team Tang. They're like, we
Mm-hmm.
could just get like like 19 tangs or something. I'm like, I don't know, man.
I have 4 or
Just a
5 in my
problematic.
tank. I've never seen like even the tiniest little speck of anything. It's just been like, what algae? What does algae
Really?
speak of?
With tangs?
Yeah, with mine at least. Like I've
Oh,
never really had an algae issue in my tanks. Like I had bubble algae one, but aside from that, not like hair or some of those other algaes. But I've also always had tangs, so that might be why I've never seen it. So,
gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, the
mhm.
bubble algae. I mean, yeah, I think that like with the newer systems now how aggressively we're attacking, the source problems of all of algae and things like that.
Mhm.
I think our need for herbivores is going to be less. So maybe we can just like do with like a couple of tangs or something like that.
Yeah, or just don't let it in the first place, and it'll be pretty safe.
Yeah, they might be better at hanging on there than you are at removing it though. But yeah, it's
It's true. Yep.
yeah.
Do. Some compliments about Becca. Will she be doing more videos? Doing a great job.
Hope so. So here's the thing. Okay, so
Hmm.
I have this intern,
Yep.
and surprisingly, she is good at scripting and shooting her own videos for the channel. And I'm like,
Hmm.
this is like the best thing ever. And
Perfect.
so I get these comments. So there's like a couple people, obviously, it's YouTube. They don't like it, but overwhelmingly positive reception from
Hmm.
my community. Okay, and then some of the comments are like, "Fan, no offense, but you need to do less videos, and she needs to do more videos." And I'm like, that is not offensive to me at all. Like, my dream scenario is that other people do all of my work for
You're
me.
like, I'm getting
Are
content,
you
not putting
kidding?
any effort. What?
It's like, are
Yeah.
you? No, it's like, I am tickled that somebody likes her videos more than mine.
Yeah.
Like, I love that stuff because it's like if she just happens to do all of my videos from now on, it's like this is the best deal ever. Are you kidding? But no, it's
Mhm.
yeah. I think I might have like a slight revolt on my hands if that were the
Yeah.
case.
Just pepper them in. Do a mix.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then people get all personal. They're like, Than, she's a little easier on the eyes than you are, buddy. And I'm like, bro, what the hell? Like, I'm clearly the best looking person here at Tidal Gardens. What are you talking about?
You're by far the best dressed. No one's gonna take that away from you. You got that one.
No, but to answer the question, yes, she will be doing some more stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Okay. On the utilitarian side, any utilitarian inverts?
So when it comes to the invert side of things,
Hmm.
I am all about like snails,
Hmm.
Astrea, turbo snails, and trochuses. I've had a hard time finding good trochuses, but
Hmm.
that's probably my like top tier snail choice. I don't really mess around with crabs, but the other day we took in some rescue corals, and they happened to have like emerald crabs in their rock,
Yeah.
and those things did some serious work. I was like really impressed. I was like, wow, maybe
Yeah.
that's not such a bad thing. I mean, they cleaned house, so
They're pretty good workers. Love his tips on sun coral. Mine have since taken your advice have been booming. There you go. See?
nice,
Good
nice.
coral spotlight videos.
Keep them fed.
Yep.
Keep
You
everything fed. Like
it's true.
all your corals.
It makes a big difference. I know the most obvious one I see is all the acans and microvisas, kind of seen behind my head in the background video. But they are so much better coloration when you actually feed them and they have lots of food. Like it's amazing the colors. You're like, oh, that was red. No, there's like oranges and blues. Like all these other colors just come out of it once they're actually fed and have proper nutrition.
Yeah. Oh, that's another like it's talking about a utilitarian design for your systems.
Mm.
Okay. This is something that like we don't have in the greenhouse that I wish we had, is the ability to turn off all your pumps
Mm.
and not have your sump overflow or anything like that. Okay. Your system is designed to be able to be turned off for 25 minutes, let's say,
Yep.
and you just go and you just feed every single thing. And
Mm-hmm.
and actually, this is probably a good reason to like go a little bit lower on the fish load so that they don't just harass every single coral in sight.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to just like to coat every single coral with food and
Yep.
just letting it do its thing for 20 minutes, it's a big deal, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to farming.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, work that into the design. Or the other thing that's nice is like sometimes it's nice to be able just to dose amino acids and
Mm-hmm.
keep just the pumps running, that like the circulation pumps,
Yep.
but don't have it go down the overflow and get skimmed out by your
Mm.
filtration. So we're able to do both. We can either shut everything down,
Yep.
or we can shut down just the return section and just kind of like churn amino acids
Mhm.
through the circulation system. That's also a really nice little benefit.
Nice. I'm
Which is
far. Yeah.
harder than it sounds because oftentimes your power heads suck air.
It's true. Make sure they're low enough. I guess your frag tank, they're not that deep. How deep are your frag systems?
They're closed loops.
No, sorry, the pumps are closed loop, but how?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you. They're supposed to be 15 inches, but that includes like the absolute bottom and the Eurobrace.
Okay.
So realistically,
13 and a half.
12-ish, 12 and a half, 13 inches.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. Nice.
I wanted 15 inches deep, but whatever.
Close.
Lost in translation.
Yeah. Darn glass thickness, messing with your specs.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you have 3/4 inch glass, it adds up.
It's true. There's an inch and a half, top and bottom, especially if you have a big beefy Eurobrace. Okay, so Than, what's your take on lighting for corals? PAR, blue light, white light, etc.
Big topic of debate.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to go for like more of the full spectrum lighting.
Mm-hmm.
And we debate this all the time. Within our own staff. Like we've got one guy that like swears by blue only. Mm-hmm. So I don't know the answer, but if I was to recommend anything, I tend to be like more full spectrum and maybe have like 3 hours of like some nice blue viewing towards the end of the day or something.
Okay. So mainly whites, mainly full spectrum, a little bit of blue at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I tend to like the look of tanks that are more full spectrum, but I know some people are all about just all actinic all the time as far as like their enjoyment of their aquarium. So I get it too. But as far as like just like the coral biology and like what they like, that's tougher to say. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that like I don't know how much of a difference it really makes in the grand scheme of things. I just don't.
Yeah, that's true. I think there's a bit of benefit from having that full spectrum because you're getting different wavelengths. It could potentially do it. But on the flip side, the colors that you see are what's actually being reflected back at you. So by having a fuller spectrum, you're going to have more potential colors reflected back at you. So it's kind of a bit of a...
And the other thing is, like, I think that there's this misconception that like a blue colored light has more blue than a white colored light. Like that's absolutely not true.
White,
like a full spectrum light has more blue in it than blue by itself.
Yep.
And you can look at the spectral intensities.
And for cool white lights, I think it's actually more of like basically a blue diode with some phosphors and stuff over top of it. So there's a lot of blue in white light as well.
Yeah, a ton. Yeah.
Yeah, so true. All right. Then, any advice for someone who wants to start coral aquaculture at 23? Went to college for marine science and love this hobby. So, any tips for someone starting out, wanting to start their own mini aquaculture farm?
So, here's the thing. Like, I think people like to focus on the stuff that they like.
Yep.
So, when it comes to the business, people will fixate on the stuff that they enjoy rather than what it's going to actually take to be a successful business person. And those are like two very different things. Like what I do on a day-to-day basis is not what you would normally think a coral farmer does, right? Like there's days I don't put my hands in the water, like stuff like that, because there's all this other stuff that needs to get done. Like the entire game is your ability to sell coral. So it is not about your ability to grow coral. It's not your ability to color them up. It is purely based on your ability to make somebody else purchase what is in your tank.
Yep.
And like it sounds like a bummer, but it is that is what is going to be necessary to be successful. So what I would say is I would start with whatever you currently have and just start to try to build out a sales channel. Now in the past, I would have suggested go to like a local show or something like that. Try selling some stuff here and there. Well, there's no shows anymore. 2020 put an end to all that. Right?
This is next year advice.
Yeah. You know what?
They get it growing in for next year.
Yep. But you're gonna have to like work on your sales channels, and you never know like what type of like skill set you'll build up on that. Like one of my
Hmm.
friends, she's not in the coral industry, but she just made this side hustle. She just started selling stuff out of her living room,
Hmm.
and it turned out that she is like a master marketer, and like she's probably pulling in like 10 grand a month
Wow,
as a
nice.
side hustle. Like she works a full-time job. She's a PhD. She's
Wow.
getting like paid full-time dollars at a university. And it's like, your side hustle is getting to the point where you need to quit your job and buy a warehouse because
And
it's
up
like
that side
going
hustle, because that's
well.
amazing for a side hustle.
Yeah, exactly. So do the side hustle thing. Like,
Hmm.
like I was about to say, like keep your job. It's like, well, 2020, like we might not have that option. But if you have a day job,
Hmm.
keep that, work on the side hustle, and then one day hopefully your side hustle will overtake your day job. That's kind of what happened with me.
Hmm.
Like I was working in like a professional adult job at a
Yep.
university also, with a corner office and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And one day it's just like my side hustle is looking way nicer, so I'm just gonna like leave this pit of insanity that I'm currently working in professionally
Hmm.
and just do this hobby based thing.
Yeah, you got to kind of build it though until you're at the point where your side hustle can sustain you, or at least be
Mhm.
more or less parallel with the day job, and then you can kind of make that jump. But it takes time and dedication.
It took me like over 10 years.
Yep. Exactly.
Sometimes, and sometimes you just can't. Sometimes it just takes momentum over like a really long time.
Hmm. No, definitely. The biggest thing, dedication, sticking with it.
Hmm.
This is
And
come.
also going back to that support structure, because sometimes like you can't be dedicated. Sometimes you want the heck out, and somebody has to like reel you back in. It's like, no, stick with it.
No, it's true. And in my past, I was like the worst. Like, I got an idea. I got another idea. I got another idea. And I kind of called it like over enterprising, where I just would do one
Hmm.
idea and then, a few months later, I'm on my next big idea, but you never stick with one long enough to fully develop it. So stick to it. Dedication pays off huge.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. Okay. I got another question on the frag tanks. Another one I think will be a little good to geek out on. Okay.
Mhm.
So enchanted reefs, aquariums, do you have just rock or do you do just frag racks or do you do rock and frag racks?
I do about like 80 to 90% racks,
Mm-hmm.
and I should have chosen a different word because they sound like the same word. Frag racks,
Mm-hmm.
and then about 20% ish
Yep.
rocks.
Okay. So a little bit of rocks just for the filtration and whatnot. Did you?
Yeah, well, it's better for the animals. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I noticed like a big difference between the the tanks that only have racks versus the ones that have like more natural looking aquascapes and stuff like that, which is kind of a catch-22 there because I need the real estate to grow product,
Mm-hmm.
but like the fish are just psychotic looking. And
Yeah.
it's like really stressful. So I want to give them more like natural stuff to hang out around also.
Nope, that's fair. That's a good point.
Because my tanks are 300 gallons and those fish are nuts. So like, I
What's your,
need to do a better job of that.
okay? So you're on the crazy damsel side of things too. Do they attack you when you put your hand in there to go for
Yes.
corals?
Yes.
Okay.
But more importantly, my hands are usually not in the water. So that's,
Fair.
you know what? I was like talking to one of my staff about this because it's like, how brave is that little animal? That's like me picking a fight with a skyscraper. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Oh, Godzilla's off in the distance. I'm gonna go fight that thing.
It is true.
They're
I
insane.
I evicted a damsel the other day. He's currently in my Zoa tank beside me, but he's my main reef. Anytime I went near the acans with the torches, he was headbutting me or like coming at me. I was like, I'm like this trying to scare him away, so he doesn't freaking take chunks out of
They
me
are
as I'm
they
trying to
are
fix a
about that life.
coral. And it took me like 3 or 4 days to catch that little punk. So yeah,
No, every single one of our damsels fights.
okay. I only have one. I've had tons, and they've been like perfect citizens, but this guy, trouble. Okay, so a bit of a geeky technical question because I know you're gonna like this one more. Okay, so Mike was asking any tips for on reefing photography, lens suggestions, lighting, etc.
Oh man,
I know.
that's like that's an entire internship worth of information there. Okay, so I'll paint broad brushes here.
Okay.
LEDs are the worst lights ever for photography. You want a real camera.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a huge difference, by the way, because like
Yes.
like you can't look at specs. I think people will shop based on specs and be like, oh, this camera has 4K. This camera has such and such. Look, just
Means
because a
nothing.
camera says it has 4K doesn't
Hmm.
mean that it's like good.
Hmm.
It's just um, kind of like a dog whistly type things. It doesn't translate to good image quality because it's like, what is the difference between like an $8,000 cinema camera and an iPhone? It's like it turns out it's quite a lot. So you can get a good camera for like $1,000. That's a good actual stills
Hmm.
camera. Anything by like Nikon, Canon, like anything, Panasonic, Sony, you'll be
Hmm.
fine. Don't even have to go all that crazy. Um, but I think the other thing that really, really, really helps is to put it on a tripod. I think that sometimes people are hand holding stuff and you're going to get some really, really bad results that way.
Yep.
But then again, there are plenty of big companies that you know the names of that
Hmm.
can hold all their shots
Hmm.
and good enough. Because remember, the game for that is to sell coral.
Yep.
That picture is good enough to sell that coral. So,
Fair.
but if you just like for your own personal enjoyment want like the best image quality, you'll want a tripod,
Hmm.
decent camera, and something better than LEDs for lighting, which means anything other than LEDs.
Now, on the flip side, though, okay, so I have diffusers on my LEDs on my G4 Radeons.
Okay.
So that actually blends pretty darn well. But the nice thing is, in the app, in Mobius, I got, oh, here's my photo mode button if I want. So it goes bloop, whitens all my lights up, makes it nice and.
Oh, that's nice. You know what? I need to. Okay, let's talk about Mobius for just a sec.
All right.
So I love Ecotech, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just as a company, they have like the best service, right?
Mm-hmm.
So responsive. I really like those guys. I like what they're doing and everything. Mobius is buggy as hell though.
Are
Like,
you are you on the beta version or do you have the full? Which one? What are you using?
um, I don't know. Let me take a look here. uh, I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
like the test flight is beta.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're on the. Okay. So the public version is actually further ahead than the
Oh,
the,
is
the beta's been more neglected now because it's all going to like the public version.
okay. I'm not
Yep.
really sure which version I have, but I know that like whenever I try to like change the, so we does we have it set up to like these six lights are for this one tank. These
Yeah.
six lights over here for a different tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go to that one tank and we'll like start to mess with the sliders
Mm-hmm.
and like sometimes two lights just aren't responsive or something like that.
Really?
Like that's what would happen. Oh yeah,
Okay.
like all the time. Or like none of the lights are responsive. Or like you start to do the sliders and they all turn off
Mm-hmm.
and they just like don't turn back on.
Okay, so
So
try swapping to the public version because for me it's like lightning fast now.
is it? Okay.
Yeah, they've upgraded a bunch of stuff and it's way quicker than it was initially. So
Okay. I'll have to give that a try because
yeah.
it's like I love you guys, but this software, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go to the public version. Once your stuff's added to it, it'll all be there. It should all work in the new one, and it is way quicker. Like
Nice.
impressively. Like I did a video on one, and I'm literally dragging the sliders. You can see the lights changing like within like a tenth of a millisecond. Like super
Okay.
snappy.
Yeah. I was wondering if it was like because of like crosstalk interference because I'm in a weird situation where there's 50 of them.
Yeah.
Like within 10 feet,
Hmm.
there's a lot going on. So, but yeah, I'll give that a try.
Yeah, I'm curious to know. Let me know. But yeah, overall, it's super snappy, so I do appreciate that one. So as for lenses, you use Canon, right, for your cameras? Or do you?
Yes.
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 Do you use anything? What do you use for your fancy when you're doing your live streams and the corals are coming by in the background?
So
What
that
lens do you
is
use?
a 100 millimeter macro
Yeah.
lens.
What's your
That
focus range on that?
the focal, no, it's just 100 millimeter. That's all you get.
Okay. Okay.
Prime. Yeah.
So
So
are your corals are they in a row perfectly spaced from the glass? And your camera's on a tripod.
yeah, well, I mean, it can focus to whatever.
Okay.
But as far as like zooming, there's no zoom.
Yeah.
It's fixed focal length, 100 millimeters. So if you want to like zoom in or zoom out, that means you physically move in and out.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only tricky thing with macros is the distance. So some of them will have a very short focal distance. You got to be close. So something you got to consider. If it's too close, you might, and you want to take a picture of, an acro that's like in the middle of your tank on the rock, you might not be able to get close enough to focus properly. So having one that has a decent range, so you can actually be outside of your tank and get to those, kind of makes a difference. Now, on the flip side of it, I mean, it's not as good as a full camera, but I also have like an underwater point and shoot, and I'll put it in there like an inch away from the coral and take photos sometimes too, and I get really nice photos that way. You don't have to deal with reflections and glare and all that jazz.
Yeah,
So,
like the glass is a pretty big obstacle. You know?
mhm. So I actually find I use like once a week I'll just like dunk my underwater camera and take a bunch of photos. So I do a mix of different ones, but that's fun to do those as well. Any idea on time scale? No, I do not. Sometime in the next few months of when they're going to add the rest of the stuff, but probably I'm assuming the whole COVID thing's probably delayed a bunch of stuff. So who knows what the actual dates are? But
The dates for
when Gen 4s are going to be added to Mobius.
Gen 4s.
Okay, on beta, yes, they work. On the public one, only Gen 5s work. The beta test
Oh, for
version.
real?
Yeah,
Okay.
those things work. But you already have yours added, so if you go to public, they'll still be there and you can use it.
Okay.
Yeah, so don't worry about it. You're good. Yeah. Moving fish with the macro is difficult. Yes, it is. Yeah, I don't know. We could totally have a geek out stream one day on all the technical side of this part of it because it's fun.
Yeah, like you're definitely
I
more.
think you're a junkie.
Yeah, you're definitely more into it than I am.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I like cool stuff. But I think that like my idea of like really cool stuff is all like hyper industrial now,
Mhm.
like less so than consumer. Like I geek out over stuff that basically makes my room look like a wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
giant valves and stuff.
but it works. It's purpose built. It does the job. You don't have to worry about it.
Hmm.
It's overly priced, but it's going to do what it needs to do. You don't have to worry about it breaking. It's not going to be buggy. I mean, there's a certain aspect to that that's nice.
Yeah, and I think that like I struggle a little bit with the consumer stuff just because I'm kind of sized out of the market.
Hmm.
So it's like algal turf scrubbers. Like there isn't an algal turf scrubber that works on my system because they're all little.
String like 4 of them together.
Yeah, exactly right. You have to daisy chain a whole bunch of them together, so that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So and like skimmers, there's like ones of skimmers that are on my radar.
So,
Unfortunately,
what is the one that you're going to be using in the new facility?
so we currently are using like a big reef octopus. It's like a
Mhm.
reef octopus, like 8,000 or something. But I don't like how noisy it is.
Mhm.
So I'm a psycho, and I'm willing to pay triple to make it quieter. So I'm considering an MRC,
I feel you.
but we haven't pulled the trigger on that. There's so many like freakish bills.
Yeah.
But like we got hit by a tornado, and then it knocked out my cable and my electric,
Mhm.
and so like I had to like deal with a giant tree and an electric line because it turns out that like the electric company isn't responsible for the electric line. So it's like, oh,
What?
I get to spend a couple grand that I didn't really plan on. That could have been my MRC or whatever. It's like
Ah,
it could have
yeah,
been
that
something
sucks.
cool, but no. I just
Could've-
needed to get like myself back to normal.
Mhm. Ah, sucks the important bills that aren't fun, right?
No. You have to be like a grown up.
I feel you with the obsession of making it silent. It's probably cost me a small fortune in this hobby, like striving to make my tank as quiet as possible and upgrading stuff because there's like this little tiny sound that bugs you, and you're like, I must
Yeah.
eliminate it.
Yeah, I'm all about that, and I'm
Mhm.
failing horribly miserably.
What's the noisiest thing that you got to deal with?
It's easily the protein skimmer.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
the pump, specifically the pump vibration of that skimmer is out of control. And
Really?
and people, well, it's on, right? So when people
Mhm.
walk in, nobody notices it. Nobody. And I say, this thing is incredibly loud.
Mhm.
And they're like, it's not that bad. Then I go and I unplug it, and they're like, oh, yeah, and that's really loud.
Once you know it's there, you can't not hear it.
And you could hear it through the entire building, like 2 floors, 5,000
Really?
square feet per floor. Anywhere in the building, you can hear that damn skim.
So that massive entrance to your like desk and recording area is just like buffer out that skimmer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, that's good. All right, then. I won't keep you too long because I've already had you on for a little over an hour, but I do appreciate you coming on today, and it was a good little chat.
Yeah, it's fun. And by the way, this is like a chat probably doesn't realize it, but this is like the first time that I've even talked to Devin, like video chat wise.
Mm-hmm.
We've never met in person or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever been to any of the events that I might have been at? I don't know.
You don't go to many events,
I
so
don't
I'm gonna say
know.
no. I mean, I watch your streams randomly, and I know I've seen you on mine randomly, and then that's about it.
Because I know that like I've been in the same building as Inappropriate Reefer once, but we didn't
Yeah,
meet.
yeah.
So I was just wondering if that might have happened. Have you been to an Aquashella?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I did watch that little stream. Though I was laughing because everyone's just like in there, and you're like super dapper in the back of a van, just chilling on the way down.
Yeah,
That was cracking me
the
up.
child kidnapping van. Yeah, that was a good time.
Yep, good times. No, I've been to a bunch of Reefapaloozas, Macnas, a bunch of random shows, but I haven't met you at one. But it's possible we might have been at one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I went to a couple of Macnas, like New Orleans.
Yep.
Were you at that one?
Nope.
Okay. I went to Denver, New Orleans, Washington,
Mhm.
D.C.
No, those are the three I didn't go
Okay.
to. I filled in for you for the next batch
There
when
you
you
go.
weren't there. Yeah.
There you go. But hey, you know what? Like, I don't know if there's going to be very many shows coming out.
This year's going to be pretty slim. If anything, it's going to be fall, winter, then, maybe next year will be back to normal, but
Yeah, yeah, it's tough to say.
yeah, it's weird times. So, more of an excuse to play with your tank. And hey, if your corals are growing well, you're cooped up, you might as well start a frag tank. So,
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, like
mhm,
it's really been like feast or famine as far as like a lot of companies are
mhm,
concerned. Because I think that like some of them are like hella struggling, but then
mhm.
others are just like this is like the best time ever
Yeah.
because
No,
like
I
because you have
100%
like all
believe it.
that stuff.
Well, you're either not working, bored, not spending money, or you're stuck at home, you're working, and you still make money, so then you're spending it on stuff to entertain yourself while you're stuck at home. So it's kind of
Yeah,
50-50 on what scenario people are in and what their hobbies are and kind of what goes along with it.
yeah, I consider myself very lucky.
Hmm.
I gotta say.
No, definitely. I mean, I definitely am lucky too. Like, I'm busier now than I am normally. Like, I have like no life anymore since this all started because I just work way too much.
What's your day job? If you
I work in IT and healthcare, so I have no life
oh.
anymore. It's all gone. It's all gone. My
Yeah,
tank's been neglected. I have no free time. So that happens. Which I'm not complaining though, because I'm happy. I'm still making money and everything else. So that's good. But
so you're doing the work from home thing?
oh yeah, I've worked from home for years. So honestly, I barely notice a difference other than my social life is more lacking these days.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep. But I
I'm
mean,
like,
same. You work from home basically too. You walk outside into the
I
next building.
do, but it's like it's doubly good for me because I'm like also kind of antisocial. So
Hmm.
like I was made in a lab for exactly this situation. Like, are you kidding me? This is like this is right up my alley.
I've
It's
been
like
training my life for this. No one's here to
I
bug
know.
me. I
It's
can
like
play with my coral.
I have the only thing that's changed is I don't get to go out to eat as often. I just have
Hmm.
food delivered. It
Yeah.
turns out that's also pretty nice. So like me being home alone. Oh, sounds awesome. Like
Yes.
more of this. Just less traffic. Yeah, I'm sure like there's people that are like really struggling out there, and they're like,
Hmm.
screw this guy. But no,
Yeah.
like as far as like the social distancing and all that stuff, it's like
Hmm.
I'm all about this. Like
You're like,
I wasn't doing anything fun or interesting anyway. I'm just gonna sit at home, watch some YouTube, check out some live streams.
that's fair. So nothing's changed. Life goes on.
Yeah.
Yep, pretty much. Well, oh well, it happens. I wish I had more free time. Aside from that, happy to be busy. So can't complain.
Hey, you know, start up that side hustle, sell some frags, right?
Yep, exactly. Hey, I'm in the midst of building a new frag tank right now, upgrading mine because it's out of space. So that'll be the next fun project whenever the new tank shows up. So hopefully it doesn't take too long because that'll be some good entertainment for myself for the next little while. Let's get the new tank rolling.
That'll be cool. Yeah.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yep. All right, guys, they're going to call it for today. Dan, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it. It was great having you. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Derek, Sky High Reef, TMG, and Rogue Aquariums. Thank you guys for the super chats. Much appreciated. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button, and we'll see you guys on next week's live stream.